The space station floated above Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Inside the main hall, representatives from 47 different alien worlds sat in their designated areas. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Everyone knew why they were here. The Calrathi Empire had come to Earth's solar system with a massive war fleet, and now they wanted to talk. Kyle Bennett stood at attention in his Navy uniform. He was a SEAL, one of the most elite soldiers Earth had to offer. For 12 years, he had served his country in dangerous missions across the world. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. Next to him stood Ambassador Patricia Morgan, the woman chosen to speak for all of humanity. The Calrathi delegation sat across the hall. They were massive creatures, covered in red scales that looked like armor. Their leader, General Vexter, was the most intimidating being Kyle had ever seen. The general stood nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles that bulged under his scaled skin. 4 yellow eyes stared at the human delegation with obvious contempt. Scars covered his body, each one a story of battles won. For 3 weeks, Earth had watched the Calrathi fleet grow larger in their sky. Warships arrived daily, until there were hundreds of them positioned just beyond the planet's defenses. Governments across Earth had debated what to do. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to surrender. In the end, they decided to talk. That decision had led to this meeting. General Vexter stood up from his seat. The translation device on the table flickered to life, turning his alien language into English. His voice boomed across the chamber, making it clear he was used to being heard and obeyed. "Your species claims to deserve respect," the general said. His tone made it obvious what he thought of that claim. "You say you should have a seat among the civilized worlds of the galaxy. But you are nothing. Primitives who barely managed to reach your own moon. You have no right to speak as our equals." Ambassador Morgan kept her face calm, though Kyle could see the tension in her shoulders. She had trained for this moment, prepared for hostility. But hearing it directed at all of humanity was different than practicing responses in a conference room back on Earth. "General, we came here in good faith," Morgan said. Her voice was steady and professional. "We want to discuss peaceful relations. Earth has much to offer the galactic community. Our science, our culture, our perspective as a newer spacefaring species." The general laughed. It was a harsh, grating sound that echoed off the walls. Several of the other alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had all heard stories about the Calrathi. Everyone in the galaxy knew their reputation. "Offer?" Vexter repeated. "You have nothing we want except your submission. However, I am not completely without mercy. The Calrathi follow an ancient code of honor. This code allows for trial by combat. If your species can produce a warrior capable of defeating one of mine in single combat, we will consider recognizing your sovereignty. We might even leave your planet in peace." The hall erupted in whispers and murmurs. The alien delegates from other worlds exchanged knowing looks. Kyle saw pity in some of their faces. Everyone present knew about Calrathi warriors. They were bred from birth to fight. Their bodies were enhanced with genetic modifications and cybernetic implants. They trained in hundreds of fighting styles. In the entire known galaxy, the Calrathi had never lost a trial by combat. "And if we refuse your challenge?" Ambassador Morgan asked. Vexter's lips pulled back, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then we will take what we want by force. Your cities will burn. Your resources will become ours. Your people will serve as slaves to the Empire. The choice is simple, Ambassador. But know this, we are broadcasting this meeting to every world in the galaxy. Billions of beings are watching. They will witness either your courage or your cowardice." Kyle felt his jaw clench. He had spent his entire adult life protecting people. He had been in firefights in deserts and jungles. He had rescued hostages and taken down terrorist cells. He had seen friends die and had nearly died himself more times than he could count. But this was different. This was not just about one country or one mission. This was about the entire human race. Before Ambassador Morgan could respond, Kyle stepped forward. "I will do it." Morgan turned to him sharply, her eyes wide. "Commander Bennett, you do not have to volunteer for this. We can discuss other options." "With respect, Ambassador, there are no other options," Kyle said quietly. He kept his voice low, speaking just to her. "This is what I trained for, to protect our people. Right now, that means everyone on Earth. If someone has to stand in that arena, it should be someone who knows how to fight." Vexthor's eyes focused on Kyle. The general studied him like a predator examining prey. After a moment, those sharp teeth showed again in what might have been a smile. "Excellent," the general said. "The human has courage, if nothing else. I will face you myself, little warrior. My name is known across 100 worlds. I have killed more enemies than you have years of life. This will be educational for your species. They will learn what happens when primitives challenge their superiors." The general gestured with one massive hand. Part of the floor in the center of the hall changed. Panels slid away and reformed into a circular arena about 30 feet across. A shimmering energy barrier sprang up around it, creating a cage. Small floating cameras appeared, hovering silently. They would capture every angle of the fight. Kyle realized that what happened next would be seen by billions of beings across the galaxy. "The rules are simple," Vexthor announced. He addressed the entire hall, making sure everyone understood. No weapons, no armor, just two warriors fighting with their bodies and their skills. The combat continues until one fighter yields or dies. Are these terms acceptable to you, human? Kyle looked at the arena. He looked at the massive alien warrior who would be his opponent. He thought about Earth and everyone on it. He thought about his teammates, his friends, his family. Then he nodded. "The terms are acceptable," Kyle said. "Then let us begin," Vexthor declared. The general walked toward the arena, removing his ceremonial robes. Underneath, his body was even more impressive. Muscles rippled under red scales. Kyle could see metal implants at his joints and along his spine. These cybernetic enhancements would make the general faster and stronger than any biological being had a right to be. Lieutenant Commander Jake Phillips appeared at Kyle's side. Jake had been Kyle's teammate for years. They had been through hell together more than once. Now Jake looked worried in a way Kyle had rarely seen. "This is insane," Jake said quietly. "That thing is 300 pounds of muscle and metal. The intelligence briefing said Kilrathi generals have crushed steel with their bare hands." "I know," Kyle said. He removed his jacket and began rolling up his sleeves. "But someone has to stand up. If we back down now, Earth is finished." "The analysts gave you 5 minutes," Jake said. His voice was grim. 5 minutes maximum before he kills you. That is what the projection showed. Kyle looked at his friend and managed a small smile. "Then I better make those 5 minutes count." He stepped into the arena. The energy barrier hummed as it sealed behind him. Across the circle, Vexthor cracked his knuckles. The sound was like rocks breaking. The general's 4 eyes locked onto Kyle with complete focus. Ambassador Morgan's voice came through the small earpiece Kyle wore. "Commander, regardless of what happens, Earth is proud of you. History will remember your courage." "Thank you, Ambassador," Kyle replied. "But I am not finished yet." A holographic referee appeared between them. It was an artificial intelligence, neutral and impartial. "Combatants, prepare yourselves. Fight begins in 3, 2, 1. Begin." Vexthor rushed forward. For something so large, he moved with terrifying speed. His massive fist swung toward Kyle's head with enough force to shatter concrete. Kyle dodged to the left, feeling the wind from the blow pass inches from his face. The general's fist hit the energy barrier behind him, sending blue ripples across its surface. Kyle knew in that instant that the next few minutes would determine the fate of humanity. The alien was faster than expected, stronger than imagined, more dangerous than anything Kyle had ever faced. But Kyle Bennett was a Navy SEAL, and SEALs never quit. Part 3. Kyle could feel his body reaching its limits. Every dodge was a fraction of a second slower than the one before. Every strike took more effort to execute, but he forced himself to maintain the appearance of capability. In combat, perception mattered as much as reality. If Vexter believed Kyle was still strong, the general would remain cautious. Vexter was tiring too. His attacks remained powerful, but were becoming more predictable. The general had built his entire career on ending fights quickly. Extended combat was not his specialty. His cybernetic enhancements had been designed for short, devastating battles. The longer this fight continued, the more strain they put on his biological systems. Kyle saw another opening and took it. As Vexter threw a heavy punch, Kyle slipped inside the general's guard once more. He drove his knee into Vexter's midsection, right where the cybernetic spine interface connected to organic tissue. It was a spot Kyle had targeted twice before in the fight. This time, the accumulated damage showed its effect. Vexter's breath exploded out in a grunt of genuine pain. The general grabbed Kyle by the shoulders with both hands. Before Kyle could react, Vexter pulled him forward and delivered a crushing headbutt. Kyle's vision exploded into white stars. He felt his nose break. Blood poured down his face, hot and metallic tasting. Vexter then threw Kyle to the ground with tremendous force. "Enough of these games," the general snarled. His voice was thick with anger. "I will crush your skull and end this farce." Vexter raised his massive foot, preparing to stomp down on Kyle's head. The watching crowd gasped in horror. Many looked away, unable to watch what they believed would be the human's death. But Kyle had been preparing for this moment. He had spent the last several minutes not just surviving, but positioning. He had maneuvered Vexter around the arena to this exact spot. Here, the lighting created a slight glare from one of the hovering holographic cameras. It was a tiny advantage, but Kyle needed every advantage he could get done as the general's foot descended toward his head. Kyle rolled into Vexter's supporting leg. He struck the damaged knee joint with both feet in a desperate scissor kick. The cybernetic joint, already weakened by the earlier impacts, finally gave way. Not completely, but enough. Vexter's supporting leg buckled. His stomp missed completely, hitting nothing but empty floor. The general's own weight and momentum worked against him. He crashed to the arena floor, shaking the ground with the impact. Kyle scrambled away, buying himself precious seconds to clear his vision. His nose was broken. Blood covered his face. His entire body screamed in agony. But he was still conscious, still moving, still fighting. Vexter pushed himself up from the floor. He favored his damaged leg now. For the first time since the fight began, there was uncertainty in his four eyes. This was not how battles were supposed to go. The humans should have been dead minutes ago. Yet here they both were, still fighting. "What are you?" the general demanded. His voice held genuine confusion. Kyle wiped blood from his mouth with his good hand. When he spoke, his voice was steady despite his injuries. "I am a Navy SEAL. We do not quit. We adapt. We overcome. And we never, ever surrender." The words carried beyond the arena. On Earth, billions of people watched their champion stand battered but unbroken. In halls of power across 47 alien worlds, leaders began to reassess their assumptions about humanity. On the Calrathi warships positioned throughout the solar system, fleet commanders started to question their general's certainty of victory. Vexther's expression hardened into something like respect. "Noble words, human. But words will not save you from what comes next." He advanced again, but his movements had changed. The swagger was gone. The casual confidence had vanished. He moved with wariness now, the caution of a predator who had discovered that his prey had teeth. He was no longer fighting a primitive. He was fighting a warrior who had earned respect through blood and determination. The next exchange was brutal. Both fighters were exhausted, running on willpower and the last reserves of adrenaline. Vexther landed crushing blows that would have killed an ordinary human. Kyle responded with surgical strikes to the weak points he had identified, each one building on the damage already inflicted. They broke apart, both breathing hard. 7 minutes had passed as fight began. Both men had far exceeded what anyone thought possible. Kyle knew he could not sustain this much longer. His body was shutting down, one system at a time. But he also knew something else. Vexther could not sustain it either. The general's cybernetic implants were overheating from prolonged use. Kyle could see the telltale shimmer in the air around the metal parts. The technology that made Vexther so deadly was becoming a liability. It was time to end this fight. One way or another. Kyle straightened despite his many injuries. He assumed a fighting stance, though every muscle protested the movement. "Come on then," he said. "Let us finish this." Vexther nodded slowly. He recognized that they had reached the final phase of their battle. Both warriors were near collapse. The next exchange would likely be the last. "Agreed," the general said. "One final clash, human. May the stronger warrior prevail." They both gathered themselves. Kyle took a deep breath, ignoring the sharp pain from his broken ribs. Vexther flexed his muscles, forcing his overheating cybernetics into one last surge of power. Then they charged at each other. Simultaneously, the collision was tremendous. Kyle and Vexther met in the center of the arena with such force that the energy barrier rippled from the shockwave. The general's massive fist caught Kyle squarely in the ribs. Kyle felt bones crack and break. The pain was beyond anything he had experienced before. But in that same instant, Kyle drove his elbow into Vexther's cybernetic spine interface. He hit it with every ounce of strength remaining in his body. The implant, already stressed from prolonged combat and accumulating damage, could not withstand the impact. Sparks erupted from the connection point. The cybernetic system flickered and spasmed. Vexther roared in agony as his enhanced nervous system misfired. Electrical signals went haywire, sending conflicting commands throughout his body. His muscles locked up, fighting against themselves. Both fighters staggered backward from the collision. Kyle fell to one knee, clutching his side. Each breath was a spike of pure agony. He could taste blood in his mouth. His vision was fading at the edges. Vexther stumbled, his damaged leg and malfunctioning implants robbing him of balance. The mighty general who had seemed unstoppable now struggled just to remain standing. The crowd watched in stunned silence. No one could believe what they were seeing. Both warriors had pushed themselves beyond any reasonable limit. Kyle forced himself to stand. His medical training told him he was badly injured. He should be unconscious, possibly dying. But SEAL training had taught him something more important. The human will could push the body beyond its supposed limits when the stakes were high enough. Vexther managed to steady himself, though his movements were jerky and uncoordinated. His cybernetics sparked and flickered. The general's face showed something Kyle had not seen before. "Doubt, you should be dead," Vexther said. His voice was strained with pain and effort. "No one has ever damaged my implants. No one has ever lasted this long against me. That is the thing about humans," Kyle replied. His words were slurred but determined. We are really good at doing things that should be impossible. In the observation area, the other delegates were in an uproar. Representatives who had dismissed humanity as primitives now watched in amazement. A single human warrior had fought the Kalrathi, Empire's most decorated general, to a standstill. Ambassador Morgan gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. "Can he actually win this?" she whispered. Colonel Sanders watched Kyle's movements with his trained eye. He has already won what matters most. Look at the other delegations. They see humanity differently now. But if you are asking whether he can physically defeat Vexter, he paused. Both of them should be unconscious right now. I do not know how either one is still standing. Jake stared at his former teammate. Memories flooded through his mind of missions they had run together, of impossible situations they had survived through skill and brotherhood. Kyle is the toughest person I have ever known. If anyone can pull this off, it is him. In the arena, Vexter and Kyle circled each other one more time. Both were severely damaged. Both were exhausted beyond measure. But neither was willing to yield. Part 2, Vexter did not pause after his first missed strike. The general pivoted with surprising speed for someone his size. His leg swept out in a powerful kick aimed directly at Kyle's ribs. Kyle managed to raise his arm to block, but the impact sent him sliding backward across the smooth arena floor. Pain shot up through his forearm. He knew immediately that the bone might be fractured. The hit felt like being struck with a metal bat dot around the arena. The assembled delegates watched in complete silence. Kyle could see their faces through the transparent energy barrier. Most showed pity. Some showed resignation. They had already decided how this would end. In their minds, the human was already dead. This was just a matter of time. Is this the best your species can offer? Vexter taunted as he circled slowly. His four eyes tracked Kyle's every movement. I have fought children with more skill than you display. Perhaps we should end this quickly. Spare you the pain and humiliation. Kyle said nothing. He had learned long ago that talking during a fight was a waste of energy. Trash talk was meant to make opponents angry and careless. Kyle needed to stay calm and focused. He needed to observe and learn. Vexter attacked again. This time, he launched a series of rapid punches designed to overwhelm Kyle's defenses. Kyle blocked what he could and dodged what he could not block. When neither option worked, he took the hit on less vital areas. Each impact felt like being hit with a sledgehammer. Blood trickled from his split lip. His ribs ached where one punch had broken through his guard. 2 minutes had passed as the fight began. In the observation area above the arena, Jake watched with growing concern. Next to him stood Colonel Greg Sanders, the man in charge of security for Earth's delegation. Sanders had been a soldier for 30 years and had seen countless fights. He is getting destroyed out there, Jake muttered. No, Sanders said thoughtfully. He leaned forward, studying Kyle's movements carefully. He is learning. Look at how he moves. He is not trying to win yet. He is gathering information. Ambassador Morgan heard them and moved closer. What do you mean by that? Sanders pointed at the arena. SEALs are trained for impossible situations. Kyle is not fighting right now. He is conducting reconnaissance. Every hit he takes, every movement Vexter makes, he is building a mental picture. He is looking for weaknesses. The question is whether he will survive long enough to use what he learns. In the arena, Kyle's theory was proving correct. Vexter's cybernetic enhancements gave him incredible power in straight lines. His punches and kicks were devastating. But the enhancements had limitations. When the general changed direction quickly, there was a tiny delay. Just a fraction of a second where his biological body and mechanical parts had to synchronize. The implants were military-grade, first-generation technology. They were powerful but not perfect. It was not much of a weakness, but it was something. Kyle also noticed that Vexter favored his right side slightly. The cybernetics in his left leg seemed just a bit slower to respond. These were tiny details that most people would never notice. But Kyle had spent years training to see such things. In combat, small advantages could mean the difference between life and death. Vexter lunged forward with another devastating combination of strikes. This time, Kyle did not retreat. Instead, he stepped inside the general's guard, getting too close for those massive arms to generate full power. Kyle struck 3 quick blows to Vexter's midsection, targeting the spots where scales met cybernetic implants. The general grunted. It was more surprise than pain, but it was something. Then Vexter grabbed Kyle by the shoulder. His grip was like an iron vise. He lifted Kyle off the ground and threw him across the arena. Kyle hit the energy barrier hard and fell to the floor, gasping for breath. The impact had knocked the wind from his lungs. "Better," Vexter admitted. There was a hint of respect in his voice now. "You have some skill after all, human. But skill means nothing against overwhelming force. Let me demonstrate what true power looks like." The general charged again. He intended to finish this fight with one massive assault. But as he closed the distance, Kyle rolled to the side at the last possible moment. Vexter's momentum carried him forward, and his shoulder crashed into the energy barrier with tremendous force. The barrier held firm, but the impact staggered even the mighty Kalarathi warrior. Kyle scrambled to his feet. His mind was racing, processing everything he had learned. 3.5 minutes had passed. Jake's prediction was proving accurate. Kyle's body was taking serious damage. His movements were getting slower. He could not win this fight through endurance. He needed a different strategy. Vexter shook his head, clearing it from the impact. He turned to face Kyle, and his eyes had narrowed. "Clever," he said. "Using my own strength against me. Perhaps there is more to you humans than I first thought. It will make your defeat all the more satisfying." The general advanced more carefully now. He had learned to respect Kyle's ability to exploit mistakes. They circled each other like predators, each looking for an opening. Kyle noticed something else about his opponent. Vexter's breathing had changed slightly. The cybernetic enhancements made him stronger and faster, but they also required more oxygen to function at maximum capacity. The general was powerful, but he was not tireless. He could get tired, not fast enough to help Kyle though. 4 minutes had passed, and Kyle knew his window of opportunity was closing. His left arm hung at his side, nearly useless from the earlier block. His ribs screamed with every breath. Several were definitely cracked, possibly broken. He was running on adrenaline and pure willpower. Then Vexter made a mistake. The general had grown confident. Victory seemed certain to him. He launched into a spinning kick, a flashy move designed to show his superiority to the watching cameras. It was powerful and impressive to look at. But the move left him off balance for just a fraction of a second. Kyle saw his chance. Instead of dodging away, he moved forward. He ducked under the spinning kick and drove his elbow into the back of Vexter's knee. It was the spot where the cybernetic joint met biological tissue. Kyle hit it with everything he had left. The general's leg buckled. It was not much, just a slight wobble. But it was enough to disrupt his landing. Vexter stumbled, and Kyle pressed his advantage. He struck the same weak spot again before rolling away to safety. The crowd gasped. It was the first time anyone had seen Vexter show any real vulnerability. The mighty general had stumbled. Some of the alien delegates leaned forward in their seats. This was not going according to the expected script. Vexter straightened up. His expression had changed. The contempt was gone, replaced by something darker. "You dare strike me like that," he growled. His voice was low and dangerous. "No more games, human. No more mercy. I will break every bone in your body before I kill you." 5 minutes had passed since the fight began. Kyle stood in the center of the arena. Blood dripped from his mouth. His breathing was labored. His left arm hung useless at his side, but his eyes were clear and focused. He had survived the initial assessment. Now the real fight would begin. "Bring it," Kyle said quietly. Vexter's rage transformed him. The calculated, tactical fighter vanished. In his place was a berserker driven by wounded pride. He charged at Kyle with pure aggression, abandoning the careful approach he had used before. It was exactly what Kyle had been waiting for. The general had spent his entire life being superior to every opponent. He had won through overwhelming power so many times that he had never learned true adaptability. When his dominance was challenged, he did not change tactics. He simply used more force. Kyle had seen this pattern before in other opponents. Drug lords who thought money made them invincible. Warlords who believed cruelty made them untouchable. They all shared the same weakness. They could not imagine losing. As Vexter charged forward, Kyle moved sideways. He forced the general to adjust his angle of attack. The cybernetic legs were powerful but had that tiny delay when changing direction. Kyle stayed just out of reach, making Vexter constantly recalibrate his strikes. The general swung his massive fist at Kyle's head. Kyle ducked low and countered with a precise strike to Vexter's ribs. He aimed for the space between armored scales. The blow did not do much damage by itself. But Kyle was implementing a new strategy now. He was accumulating damage. Each small strike added to the previous ones. "Stand still and fight like a warrior," Vexter roared. Frustration was clear in his voice. "That is not how we do things," Kyle replied calmly. He continued his pattern. Evade the attack. Strike a vulnerable point. Move away. Repeat. Each individual hit did minimal damage to the armored warrior. But they were adding up. More importantly, they forced Vexter to expend energy chasing his faster, more mobile opponent. The mood in the observation area had shifted completely. Delegates from other worlds now watched with genuine interest. Ambassador Morgan allowed herself a small glimmer of hope. Jake watched his former teammate with a mixture of admiration and worry. Kyle was still in the fight. Against all odds, the human was still standing. Part 4. The two warriors faced each other across the arena floor. Blood dripped from Kyle's face, creating small pools on the smooth surface. Vexter's cybernetic implants continued to spark and flicker, sending occasional jolts through his massive frame. Both fighters swayed slightly, their bodies operating on nothing but willpower. "I underestimated your species," Vexter said finally. His voice was quieter now, less booming than before. "I thought you were weak because you lacked our enhancements and our genetic superiority. I was wrong. Your strength comes from something different. Something I had not encountered before. What is that?" Kyle asked. His voice was rough, damaged from exertion and injury. "Choice," the general replied. "We Kalrathi are bred for combat from birth. We are enhanced for war before we can even walk. We have no choice but to be warriors. But you chose this path. You chose to stand here today knowing you would likely die. That choice makes you dangerous in ways I did not anticipate." Kyle nodded slowly, understanding what Vexter meant. "I did choose this. Just like billions of humans throughout history have chosen to stand up when it would have been easier to stay down. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the smartest. But we are survivors. And we do not quit." Vexter's expression shifted. What might have been respect showed in his four eyes. "Then let us see this through to the end, human warrior. One final test of will against will. The general gathered himself for one last assault. His cybernetics flickered and sparked, but he forced them into compliance through sheer determination. If this human could push beyond biological limits through choice and willpower, then Vexter would honor that by giving everything he had remaining. Kyle took a deep breath, trying to ignore the screaming pain from his broken ribs. He had one move left in him, one final technique that might end this fight. It was risky, potentially fatal, but it was also the only path to victory he could see. They both charged forward for the final time. Vexter swung with a devastating punch aimed at Kyle's head. The blow had enough power behind it to shatter a human skull instantly. But Kyle did not try to dodge this time. Instead, he moved into the punch, accepting a glancing blow off his shoulder while simultaneously driving forward with his right arm extended. His target was not Vexter's body. It was the malfunctioning cybernetic spine interface, already damaged and sparking from the previous strike. Kyle's fist, wrapped around a piece of broken bone from his own fractured hand, struck the implant directly in its center. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The already compromised system completely overloaded. Electrical current surged through Vexter's entire nervous system. His muscles locked up, every fiber contracting at once. The general's four eyes went wide with shock and pain. His enhanced musculature fought against itself, unable to receive proper signals. But striking the armored implant had cost Kyle everything he had left. The impact shattered the bones in his hand completely. The glancing blow from Vexter's punch had dislocated his shoulder. As the general fell forward, Kyle collapsed beside him. His body had finally reached its absolute limit. The arena fell into complete silence. Both warriors lay motionless on the floor. The only sounds were the crackling of damaged cybernetics and the hum of the energy barrier. The holographic referee moved forward to scan both combatants. Medical readings appeared on displays visible to everyone present. Both fighters were alive, but barely. Both had sustained injuries that would require extensive medical treatment. Both were physically incapable of continuing the fight. Ambassador Morgan found her voice. What happens now? The rules stated that combat continues until one yields or dies. Neither has happened. The referee's artificial intelligence processed this unprecedented situation. Its programming had no clear answer. Before it could formulate a response, movement in the arena caught everyone's attention. Kyle was trying to stand. Using his one functional arm, he pushed against the floor. His face contorted with effort that was painful to watch. Every eye in the chamber focused on the human warrior as he forced his shattered body into a sitting position. Beside him, Vexter's eyes opened. The general saw what Kyle was attempting. With his cybernetics offline and his body traumatized, Vexter tried to move as well. His muscles responded to his commands. But without the enhanced strength of his implants, he could not generate enough force to rise. Kyle made it to his knees. Blood ran freely from multiple wounds. His vision narrowed to a tunnel. But he was not finished yet. Using every last reserve of strength he possessed, he stood up. His legs shook violently. His balance was precarious. But he was vertical, standing on his own 2 feet while his opponent remained on the ground. The silence shattered. The chamber erupted in voices. Shock, disbelief, and grudging admiration mixed together in a wave of sound that washed over the arena. Vexter looked up at the human standing above him. Impossible, he whispered. The word carried clearly through the translation device. Kyle swayed dangerously, seconds away from collapsing again. Not impossible, he managed to say. Just difficult. He looked down at the general with no triumph in his expression, no gloating. Only exhaustion. Do you yield? The question hung in the air. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched and waited. The fate of humanity balanced on the Kilrathi general's response. Vexter lay on the arena floor, staring up at the impossible human. The general's pride warred with reality. He had been defeated, not through superior strength or better technology. He had been beaten by determination, strategy, and an indomitable will that refused to break. The silence stretched. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, Vexter spoke. His voice carried clearly through the translation devices to every corner of the chamber, and beyond to the billions watching across the stars. I yield. Those two words changed everything. Gasps and murmurs spread among the assembled delegates. The Kilrathi contingent looked stunned, unable to process what they had witnessed. Their undefeated general, the pride of their empire, had conceded defeat to a human. The moment Kyle heard those words, his body gave out completely. He collapsed to the arena floor beside Vexter. Consciousness faded rapidly. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was medical teams from multiple species rushing toward them, both in the observation area. Jake let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "He did it," he said in disbelief. "That crazy guy actually did it." Colonel Sanders shook his head in amazement. "In 30 years of military service, I have never seen anything like that. He should have been dead 5 times over." Ambassador Morgan felt tears running down her face. She made no effort to wipe them away. "He saved us," she whispered. "He saved all of us." Around the chamber, delegates from dozens of worlds began to speak at once. The implications of what they had witnessed would take time to fully understand. But one thing was immediately clear. Humanity could no longer be dismissed as primitives unworthy of respect. The Kilrathi delegation sat in shocked silence. Their entire worldview had been challenged. The foundation of their superiority had cracked. If a single unenhanced human could defeat their greatest general, what did that say about their assumptions regarding strength and worth? Medical teams worked frantically on both fighters. Advanced alien technology began the process of healing catastrophic injuries. Kyle remained unconscious as his broken body was carefully moved to the medical bay. Vexter, his cybernetics now completely offline, was taken to a separate treatment area. The broadcast of the fight spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. Humanity had been given a reprieve, a chance to prove themselves worthy of joining the galactic community. In the days that followed, the full impact of Kyle's victory would become clear. But in that moment, as medical technology fought to save both warriors, the only thing that mattered was that a human had stood against impossible odds and refused to fall. Kyle Bennett had given humanity hope when they needed it most. He had shown the galaxy that humans were more than they appeared, that they possessed a strength that could not be measured in muscle or metal. And sometimes, that was enough to change the course of history. Part 5. Kyle woke 3 days later in a medical bay unlike anything on Earth. His body was encased in advanced healing technology that glowed with soft blue light. The devices hummed quietly as they worked to repair his extensive injuries. For a moment, he simply lay there, trying to remember where he was and what had happened. Then memory flooded back. The arena. Vexter. The fight. He had won. Or at least, he had not lost. The distinction seemed important somehow. Ambassador Morgan sat in a chair beside his bed. Relief flooded her face when she saw his eyes open. "Welcome back, Commander Bennett," she said softly. "You have been unconscious for 3 days. How do you feel?" Kyle took inventory of his body. The pain was still there, but dulled by medication and healing technology. He could breathe without the sharp agony from before. His broken nose had been repaired. His hand no longer felt like shattered glass. "Like I got hit by several trucks," Kyle said. His voice was rough from disuse. "What happened after I passed out?" Morgan smiled. You won, Commander. The fight, the respect of the galactic community, and Earth's sovereignty. The Calrathi fleet withdrew from our solar system. General Vexter kept his word, though I suspect his superiors were not happy about the outcome at first. At first? Kyle asked. The broadcast of your fight was watched by over 300 billion beings across the known galaxy, Morgan explained. It caused quite a reaction. Humanity went from being dismissed as primitives to being recognized as a species with remarkable potential. We have received diplomatic messages from 37 different civilizations in the past 3 days. Everyone wants to establish relations with Earth now. Kyle processed this slowly. His brain was still foggy from the medications. And General Vexter? Is he okay? He is recovering in the medical bay next to this one, Morgan said. His cybernetic implants needed extensive repairs and replacement. The fight damaged them severely. He has been asking to speak with you. He has? Morgan nodded. Apparently, he is quite impressed with you. The Calrathi respects strength and honor above everything else. You demonstrated both qualities in that arena. He wants to meet with you when you are well enough. Over the following week, Kyle's body healed with the help of alien medical technology. The devices could not fix everything instantly, but they accelerated natural healing dramatically. Broken bones knit together in days instead of months. Internal injuries repaired themselves with minimal scarring. He received visitors from across the diplomatic delegation. Each one thanked him for his sacrifice and courage. Some brought gifts from their worlds. Others simply wanted to shake his hand and tell him how inspiring his fight had been. But the most significant visit came from Vexter himself. The general entered Kyle's recovery room walking with a slight limp. His cybernetics have been repaired, but full integration would take time. The two warriors looked at each other for a long moment. So much had changed between them in those few minutes in the arena. Commander Bennett, Vexter said formally, I owe you an apology. I judged your species without truly understanding you. I assumed weakness where I should have recognized a different kind of strength. Kyle shifted to sit up straighter in his bed. You fought honorably, General. You could have used weapons or refused my challenge. You did not. That says something about your character. Vexter inclined his head in acknowledgement. The Calrathi Code demands honor in combat. But honor means nothing without the humility to learn from defeat. You taught me something important that day. You taught me that enhancement and breeding do not determine a warrior's true worth. Real strength comes from here, he tapped his chest. And here, he tapped his head. Will and intelligence matter more than muscle and metal. I learned something too, Kyle admitted. I learned that warriors from any world can understand each other through shared experience. We both risked everything in that arena. That creates a bond that goes beyond species or culture. The general smiled. The expression still looked strange on his predatory features, but it seemed genuine. Indeed it does. Which is why I have a proposal for you. The Calrathi Empire owes humanity a debt for the honor you restored to us through honest combat. I wish to sponsor Earth's entry into the Galactic Defense Coalition. This is a military alliance of 17 worlds. Membership would provide Earth with protection and resources. Kyle raised an eyebrow. That is generous. What do you want in return? I want to establish an exchange program between our military forces, Vexter said. Your tactics, your adaptability, your resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. These are qualities any warrior could benefit from learning. And our technology and combat experience could help your forces. Together, we would both be stronger. You want Calrathi and humans to train together? Kyle asked. I want us to learn from each other, Vexter clarified. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There are threats that require cooperation between species. If we can bridge the gap between our peoples, others might follow. What happened in that arena could be the beginning of something greater than either of us. Over the following months, Kyle's fight became legendary. It was studied in military academies across dozens of worlds. Tacticians analyzed his strategy of accumulating small advantages against a superior opponent. Philosophers debated what it meant that an unenhanced human could defeat a cybernetically enhanced warrior through will and intelligence alone. On Earth, Kyle Bennett became a household name. He received medals and honors from governments around the world. But he remained humble about his accomplishment. When reporters asked how he had defeated such a powerful opponent, his answer was always simple. I did what any SEAL would do. I adapted to the situation, used the resources available, and refused to quit. The real victory was not mine alone. It belonged to every human who ever stood up against impossible odds and kept fighting. The exchange program Vexter proposed became reality. Human soldiers, including several of Kyle's former SEAL teammates, trained alongside Calrathi warriors. The cultural differences were significant at first. The Calrathi were bred for combat and struggled to understand concepts like mercy and restraint. Humans found the Calrathi focus on honor and strength exhausting, but slowly, mutual respect grew. Calrathi warriors learned that human tactical flexibility could overcome raw power. Humans learned that the Calrathi code of honor, while strict, created bonds of loyalty that were unbreakable. Both sides discovered that they had more in common than they first thought. Kyle himself became humanity's military liaison to the Galactic Defense Coalition. The position suited his skills perfectly. He understood combat, diplomacy, and the importance of building bridges between different cultures. He worked closely with Vexter, and the two former opponents became genuine friends. 1 year after the fight, Kyle stood on the observation deck of Earth's newly built defense station. The station orbited high above the planet, a symbol of humanity's new place in the galactic community. Ships from dozens of worlds were arriving for a formal ceremony welcoming Earth as a full member of the coalition. Jake stood beside him, now promoted to commander and serving as Kyle's second in command. They watched the ships approach in comfortable silence for a while. "Do you ever think about that day?" Jake asked finally. "Those minutes in the arena?" Kyle nodded slowly. "Every day. Not because of the fight itself, but because of what it represented. That was the moment humanity stopped being observers in the galaxy. We became participants. We proved that we belonged here." "The intelligence analysts were right, though," Jake said with a slight smile. "You only lasted 5 minutes against Vexter. That was their prediction." "True," Kyle acknowledged. "But I lasted 8 minutes, not 5. And sometimes, those extra few minutes make all the difference in the world." Ambassador Morgan joined them on the observation deck. She had been promoted to Earth's primary representative to the Galactic Council. "Gentlemen, they are ready for you. The ceremony is about to begin." As they walked toward the ceremony hall, Kyle reflected on everything that had happened. It had started with violence and desperation, a fight that seemed hopeless, but it had led to understanding and cooperation between species. His battle with Vexter had not just been about survival. It had been about proving that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The ceremony was impressive. Representatives from countless worlds attended. Speeches were given in dozens of languages, all translated by advanced technology. When Kyle was called forward to receive the Galactic Medal of Valor, the first human ever to be so honored, Vexter himself presented the medal. As he placed it around Kyle's neck, the general spoke words that would be recorded in history books across. This human warrior stood, alone against overwhelming force, and refused to break. In doing so, he did not just save his species. He reminded all of us what true strength looks like. It is not given through genetic enhancement or cybernetic implants. True strength is chosen, every single day, by individuals who decide to stand up when they could stay down. Humanity has earned its place among us not because of what they are, but because of who they choose to be. The crowd erupted in applause. Kyle looked out at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. 1 year ago, humanity had been on the edge of destruction. Now they were partners in something greater,